The most effective learning methods, what cognitive science actually supports. Decades of research in cognitive psychology converge on a clear conclusion: effective learning depends more on how you study than on how long you study. Many popular habits, such as rereading, highlighting, or skimming without follow-up, feel productive but produce weak long-term learning. This article presents the 5 most effective evidence-based learning methods, explains why commonly cited techniques like SQ3R and skimming are not ranked among the top tier, and clarifies how productivity tools and learning frameworks fit into the evidence. The top 5 evidence-based learning methods. The following methods are consistently rated as high or moderate to high utility in large-scale research reviews, most notably Dunlosky et al., 2013, and subsequent replication studies. 1. Retrieval practice, active recall. What it is. Actively recalling information from memory without consulting notes, using self-quizzes, practice tests, flashcards, or free recall. Why it works. Retrieval strengthens memory traces and improves future access to knowledge. Crucially, the act of remembering itself drives learning more than additional exposure. Evidence. One of the most robust findings in learning science, showing large benefits for long-term retention across ages, subjects, and ability levels, Roediger and Karpik, 2006. Examples. Free recall after reading. After finishing a textbook section, close the book and write down everything you remember, key ideas, definitions, and examples, before checking for gaps. Practice questions without notes. Answer end of chapter or teacher-provided questions before reviewing notes, even if you expect to struggle. Flashcards with production, not recognition. Use flashcards that require generating an answer, e.g., explain photosynthesis, rather than recognizing it from multiple choices. Two. Spaced practice, spaced repetition. What it is. Distributing study over time instead of concentrating it into a single session. Why it works. Spacing counteracts forgetting by forcing repeated reconstruction of memories at increasing intervals. Evidence. Consistently rated as high utility. When combined with retrieval practice, it produces some of the strongest learning gains observed in experimental research, Cepeda et al., 2006, Cepeda et al., 2009. Examples. Distributed review. Schedule study a topic today, retrieve it tomorrow, revisit it 3 days later, and then again after a week. Spaced flashcard systems use tools or manual schedules that resurface difficult cards more often and easy cards less frequently. Cumulative weekly review. Instead of reviewing only the most recent material, include brief retrieval of older topics each week. Three. Interleaved practice. What it is. Mixing different topics or problem types within a study session rather than studying one type at a time. Why it works. Interleaving improves discrimination between similar concepts and enhances transfer to new situations. Evidence. Moderate to high utility, particularly in mathematics, science, and skills involving problem classification. Interleaving is most effective once learners can recognize problem types. Premature interleaving can overload novices. Examples. Mixed problem sets. Practice algebra, geometry, and word problems in the same session instead of completing one category at a time. Concept comparison. Alternate between similar concepts, e.g., classical versus operant conditioning, and explicitly note how they differ. Skill variation. Practice in language learning, rotate between grammar, reading comprehension, and listening exercises rather than blocking one skill. 4. Elaboration and self-explanation, including the Feynman technique. What it is. Explaining ideas in your own words, asking how and why questions, and connecting new material to prior knowledge. The Feynman technique. Explaining a concept as simply as possible, identifying gaps, revisiting sources, and refining explanations using analogies. Why it works. Elaboration builds meaningful connections and supports deep understanding rather than surface memorization. Evidence. Rated as moderate utility, most effective once learners have some foundational knowledge. Elaboration works best when explanations are accurate and guided. Examples. Teach it to someone else. Explain a concept out loud as if teaching a beginner, without using technical terms unless necessary. Why and how prompts ask questions like, why does this formula work, or how does this process lead to that outcome, and answer them in writing. Feynman style refinement. Write a simple explanation, identify unclear parts, revisit the source, and rewrite using clearer language or analogies. Five, dual coding, when visuals are meaningful. What it is. Combining verbal information with relevant visuals such as diagrams, flowcharts, or concept maps. Why it works. Learning improves when information is encoded through both verbal and visual channels, provided the visuals directly support understanding. Evidence. Moderate utility. Poorly designed visuals can increase extraneous cognitive load and impair learning. Benefits occur only when visuals add meaningful, non-redundant information. Examples. Diagram-based summaries pair written explanations with labeled diagrams, e.g., the heart, a cell, or an economic cycle. Concept maps create visual maps that show relationships among ideas, such as causes, effects, and hierarchies. Process flowcharts turn step-by-step procedures, e.g., mitosis, essay writing, experimental design, into visual flow diagrams. Where does skimming and SQ3R fit? Why the skim, survey, step feels useful. Skimming does provide real benefits. It gives a structural overview of the material. It helps learners allocate attention and identify key sections. It can activate prior knowledge when background familiarity exists. These functions create a mental map of the content, a process known as advance organization, Ausubel, 1960. Why skimming is not a high-utility learning method. Despite these benefits, skimming is not ranked among the most effective learning techniques in major reviews, Dunlosky et al., 2013. Skimming supports orientation, not memory formation. It involves little to no retrieval. It relies on recognition. Its benefits disappear unless followed by active learning. Recognition-based activities often create an illusion of understanding, leading learners to overestimate what they know, Bjork and Bjork, 2011. SQ3R, helpful but inefficient. SQ3R, survey, question, read, recite, review, remains popular, but its effectiveness comes mainly from recite retrieval practice. Review spaced practice, if delayed. The remaining steps provide structure but add relatively little learning benefit for the time invested. Modern alternative, a streamlined 3R approach. Read. Recite, retrieve from memory. Review, check accuracy. This preserves the learning benefits while reducing unnecessary complexity. Productivity tools are not learning methods. Techniques like the Pomodoro technique improve focus and time management, but they do not directly improve memory or understanding. They are best viewed as support tools, useful only insofar as they enable evidence-based learning methods such as retrieval practice, spacing, and elaboration. Vocabulary learning, a special case. Vocabulary acquisition benefits from domain-specific applications of core principles. Learning words in context. Using spaced repetition systems. Applying morphological analysis, roots, prefixes, suffixes. Building semantic networks, synonyms, antonyms, collocations. Using dual coding for concrete and abstract terms. These methods align closely with retrieval, spacing, and elaboration. Conclusion. The evidence is clear. Durable learning is active, effortful, and spaced over time. Skimming and structured reading systems can help learners orient themselves, but they should play a supporting role, not a central one. The greatest returns come from focusing on retrieval practice, spaced repetition, interleaving, elaboration, including the Feynman technique, meaningful dual coding, skim briefly, retrieve deeply. While effectiveness can vary by task, expertise level, and domain, these core strategies show robust benefits across learning contexts. References.